good evening, ladies and gentlemen, ladies and sinners. Welcome to another Tuesday edition of the Sin City Sports Show presented by IE Sports Radio. This is your host, Cale Henderson, and we're back at it again, guys. It's a rough week for me. Just found out my offensive coordinator tested positive for COVID, so I will be stepping in and calling plays this upcoming Sunday for my youth team. A lot of work to do. On top of that, it's pretty depressing that the Raiders just can't seem to figure out a way to get it done, even with a 20-point lead. We're going to talk about that later on in the show. To start off the show, though, we got to talk about the Lady Aces. The Lady Aces won the WNBA championship. We're definitely going to get into a little more in depth in that. They celebrated today or last night in a nightclub that was paid for, obviously, by owner Mark Davis. He's extremely happy with the Aces, and he's really happy that he made the decision to buy the team, as he's reported, and I think it's been an awesome thing that the Lady Aces kicked ass all year, and they were kind of the eventual favorites, right? I mean, everybody kind of had them picked. We're going to talk about UNLV football, but when we get back, we are going to go right into the show, presented by IE, the Sin City Sports Show, presented by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. And welcome back to the Sin City Sports Show presented by IE Sports Radio. I'm your host, Cale Henderson, and we are back at it again, guys. Another Tuesday edition. If you folks want to get our show, make sure you're on, because it's every Tuesday, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. We will talk about our UNLV, or we will talk about our LV Aces for most of the part. They're about to enter the offseason here. We will talk about UNLV football for the next few months for sure. The Golden Knights have started their rookie camps. So their season's about to get under swing here, especially in the next month or so. And then we are always, of course, going to talk about our Raiders. We need to do a deep dive into them today. That'll probably be the majority of the show, as it always is. And, man, I got a lot to say. I really do. A lot to unpack. A lot of negativity on Twitter. A bit unreasonable. I think Raiders Twitter sometimes is some of the most tumultuous crap that you'd ever read. Sometimes fries your brain cells, but it is what it is, man. It's kind of what happens. You know, I can't say that our fan base, the Raiders fan base, is really that smart, honestly. When you read majority of the things they say. Very negative. They have a right to be negative, but sometimes it just goes to extremes, man. Maybe that's every fan base, but I can tell you guys for the last 3 to 4 years, it's been two extremes with the Raider fan base. I think NFL is just a Twitter sport. I really do. I think Twitter dominates the NFL. The NFL dominates Twitter, and especially in season, and it just gets toxic sometimes. When you're doing well, everything's great. Everybody praises that person. When you do something bad, that same person you praised the week before, you just crap on, and I hate it. I just don't like it. So kind of made the decision that I'm just going to start cutting out those negative idiots because half of them don't know a damn thing about football. So we're going to definitely do a deep dive, not necessarily into the fans, but what's going on with the Raiders. Why things are the way they are right now, where's the ineptitude, and what they can do to right the ship. Because they also have some team needs that need to be addressed. I think Dave Ziegler and Josh McDaniels need to stop ignoring the elephant in the room and get that taken care of. Like I said, we'll touch base when we get to that. The Las Vegas Lady Aces, man. The Lady Aces killed it. I mean, they went 3-1 in the WNBA finals. Ended up clinching the game in Connecticut, 78-71. It was absolutely awesome, man. I actually had an opportunity to watch that game. For the most part, this entire season, the Lady Aces were dominant. They had one slide, I want to say, in that third quarter of the season, and then they went on another run like they did basically the first half of the year. That one little bit of a slide, I think that had to do with some injuries, people trying to get right, but overall, dude, what a storybook year. AJ Wilson was the league MVP. Chelsea Gray ended up being the finals, or the WNBA finals MVP. And I tell you what, these ladies killed it. And you had 3 girls that averaged more than 20 points a game. Chelsea Gray was just lights out. Her three-point shooting, over 50% in the finals, was absolutely fantastic. It really propelled this team, because I think a lot of attention was on AJ Wilson. I think a lot of attention was on Kelsey Plume. Uh, Chelsea Gray, for whatever reason, was almost one-on-one every time. She'd get around a screen, set up by Aja, set up by one of her Aces teammates, and I swear, man, it looked like that ball had a bit of hang time, but she was making them all day. It was a sight to see, especially game one where they basically just dominated. Um, I don't know. I thought that this game was fantastic. I thought this series was fantastic. I thought this team was just kind of destined for it. You kind of knew at the beginning of the season when they started off on their run and they were just kind of caking people. Um, they maintained probably, I think it was like 45 plus percent field goal percentage all year long, which is incredible, unbelievable. And yes, Taryn Rodriguez chimes in. He said, "Congrats to the Aces. Vegas is indeed turning into a sports city as well as an entertainment city." You're not wrong, man. I've been saying this since the beginning of the show. If you folks have been following the show since the beginning, this is the 27th episode. You guys would know, so that's 27 weeks. I've missed a couple here and there, but who's counting? That's 27 weeks. I've said it from the very beginning. I think Vegas is the fastest growing sports market in America. It has the most potential still, which is kind of crazy because you could still easily add an NBA team. You could still easily add a basketball team, or sorry, an NBA team. You could still easily add an MLB team, and this place would just be absolutely booming. Look at the way the NFL is. Yes, things are kind of negative around the Raiders right now, but you don't sell $119 million worth of season tickets for no reason. You don't lead the NFL in season tickets for no reason. You don't. I mean, the following for the WNBA Aces was crazy. Uh, Mark Davis taking over this team was fantastic, and I think he loves it. I think the ladies really appreciate him. He's been a great he's been a great owner for them, and it's kind of obvious, man. Like he's taking care of them really well. So and it's nice because you also see some of them Raiders players come out to support. It's been really cool. So while you have the WNBA winning championship, you had the NVA. So the Ramblers won the championship earlier this year. I'd love to see the Raiders do it. Right now, it doesn't look like it. It seems as though they have to go through their growing pains, maybe squeak into the playoffs like last year kind of team, and then maybe go off the following year. Not sure. But I totally see this being a town that's going to see a lot of winning here in the future, and I think it's a place that people want to come play sports. I really do. UNLV football is off to a great start. I just think this is a great sports market, man, and it's the fastest growing one. And pretty soon, its potential is vast. Its potential is extraordinary, and that potential could very well be realized here in the next few years through multiple sports. And I'll say this: I think the Aces can win very not easily. I think the Aces very logically could win next year too. They have the big three coming back: Kelsey Plume, AJ Wilson, Chelsea Gray. All three of those girls are coming back. That's crazy. I mean, that's awesome. Becky Hamlin, first year head coach. Um, they have a first year athletic, or sorry, not general manager. They made all the right moves this offseason. I think it's absolutely crazy. So, Lady Aces, hats off to them. They celebrated today in a nightclub, for that matter. Uh, looks like they celebrated at the Jewel nightclub. That was obviously hosted by Mark Davis and the Lady Aces in general. You see some pictures of them. They were looking pretty fine. Uh, Dude, great first ever WNBA championship party. WNBA championship for the Aces, and there could be a few more on the way because this seems like a team that is built for success long term, man. Big time. Seriously. Big time. Built for success. So very happy for them. MVP or finals MVP, Chelsea Gray. MVP, AJ Wilson, Kelsey Plume. You still have Jackie Young on the roster. I just think this is a team that if they stay together, they could very easily win next year too. But let's give them their flowers now. They are the WNBA champions, and they kicked ass. That's all it said, man. I mean, they were the number one seed. They earned that number one seed, and they kicked ass in the playoffs too. So you gotta love it. Terrence chimes in, says Aces are celebrating today. Kelsey Plume did the gritty. Absolutely. I mean, I think she grinded her way to being like one of the team captains and one of the top three on this team. She definitely set a lot of picks. She was fantastic. Earlier in the show, or at the very beginning of the show, you said, I have the Raiders winning this week. No way they lose to a Titans team that has offensive ineptitude. Dude. I thought the same thing about the Cardinals. Started off with a 20-0 lead, man. You'd think that was a win. A lot going on there, man. A lot going on. And, What I think is frustrating is you have a head coach that's not really taking ownership right now. If it doesn't feel like he's taking ownership, and we'll talk about that more in depth. UNLV football, uh, again kicking ass, taking names. They're 2-1 to start the season. Won 52-21 against Idaho State in the first week. Lost by 6 points to a Power 5 California team, and then put the whooping on North Texas this past week. UNLV 58, North Texas 27. The standings are what they are, man. Like UNLV's on top of the Mountain West portion of the conference, the West portion of the Mountain West Conference. They're 2-1. They're 2-0 at home. They have a one-game win streak. Right now they're 2-0. Let's see. They don't have conference play starts very soon here. Let's get back to that real quick. Conference play is about to start. They have a test this week, a big test against Utah State. Utah State is probably one of the better teams in this Mountain West. I don't even believe they should be in the Mountain West. They should be a Pac-12 team. To be honest with you, they have great talent over there, and they should be competing against Utah on a yearly basis. BYU, Utah State, Utah. All three of those teams should be in the Pac-12, and they should all be competing each other year in, year out for rivalries and stuff. I have no idea why they're in the Mountain West, but they're a good football team, man. They're playing really well. Utah State has a couple losses, but they're against big teams. They're against big teams that wanted to put them on the beginning of the schedule. So congrats to Utah State for taking in that money, because I'm sure they were paid like $1 million to go play the powerhouse teams. One of them, I think, being Alabama, for that matter. New Mexico's the following week. You have San Jose State. So this UNLV team is about to get to the nitty gritty of the Mountain West Conference in itself. Air Force is a really good team this year. They'll play Notre Dame, San Diego State, Fresno State. I mean, it's not going to be an easy rest of the schedule. Starting off 2-1 is a big deal. This could be a team that, honestly, when you look at this, man, maybe they win 4 more games. Maybe. I'm telling you guys, this is a tough schedule. For Mountain West, it's pretty legit. Not to mention you have to play Notre Dame, which isn't going to be easy at all. UNLV is kicking ass. Brumfeld is killing it at quarterback. I think he's been very efficient for the UNLV. Even against California, I thought he played really well. I really do. I think Brumfeld did an excellent job. And overall, this team could be looking at a winning season and a possible bowl bid, which would be huge for Coach Arroyo. Huge. Brumfeld was 21 of 27 passing, 211 yards, 2 scores, and he rushed for 100 yards, including 2 more scores. So he's one of those dynamic quarterbacks that can do it both, and that's what the UNLV Rebels need, and that's something that's going to be a good recipe for them down the road. It's hard to play dual threat quarterbacks. Really is. It's hard to play dual threat quarterbacks. So as long as he continues to stay on point, make positive decisions, doesn't turn the ball over, this is a team that could very well win 4 or 5 more games, and you're looking at a bowl game. And I'd love to see that. Brumfield is killing it. Robbins, leading receiver, Robbins, leading running back, rushed for 227 yards and 3 scores. Against North Texas, again, North Texas is not a very good school. Most of the time, they actually aren't bad. This year, they seem down. Great for UNLV, great for Coach Arroyo. I hope they keep this going. They have a big test, again, a big test coming up against Utah State. Utah State is not going to be a team that's just going to lay over for them. It's going to be tough, very tough. Should be interesting to see how that pans out for them. But I'll be real with you guys. I don't know if they beat Utah State. I really don't. I don't know if they beat Utah State. Somehow UNLV is the favorite. I think Utah State's been playing tough teams. If we're being honest, I think Utah State's played tough teams. So to me, I don't know, man. I don't know if we can count our chickens yet. They played Connecticut, beat them. That was a pretty easy win. They lost to Alabama. I guess they did lose to Weber State, which is super sketch in the Big Sky. But these smaller subdivision teams have been kicking ass lately. So maybe Utah State is in some trouble. I hope it's a great game, and I hope UNLV pulls it off. I don't think they will, but I hope UNLV pulls it off, because if they do, to start 3-1 in a season where Coach Arroyo is really starting to gain some tread, it seems like, with the recruiting base and stuff, that'd be huge. And I hope they have guys visiting, because again, this is a big time matchup in the Mountain West, and it'd be huge if UNLV could win the next 2 games. You win the next 2 games, man. Yeah, the schedule's still tough, but all you got to do is win 2 or 3 more, and you're bowl eligible. big time, which would be huge for Coach Arroyo. We've been saying from the off season, they got a ton of speed at receiver, they got great skill position. The offensive line is finally starting to do what it's supposed to be doing. Now's the time to put those pieces together and see if you can get bowl eligible. If you can do that, if Coach Arroyo can do that with this UNLV team, I think that's a long that'll put him in a good position, because in my personal opinion, if he doesn't get to the bowl game, I think he's on the hot seat. I think we're looking at one more season of a grace period. If he gets to the bowl game, this gives him good faith, and it also helps with the recruiting path for sure. UNLV, I mean, seems like a fun place to go play. I don't know why people wouldn't want to be there. Why wouldn't you want to play in Las Vegas? Why wouldn't you want to play there? Nice weather year-round. You have an excellent stadium to play in. The Raiders Stadium, for that matter. Right now, we should probably be calling it everybody else's stadium, but I'm a little salty right now. We'll touch base on that. In all realism, man, like seriously, they have an excellent facility. They have a brand new $40 million football facility. I think that's excellent, man. I think it helps out Coach Arroyo quite a bit. So hopefully, and they have designers from basically Oregon helping them with their jerseys and stuff here in the future. Someone who came over from Oregon Equipment. If you guys get a chance, go to YouTube. I'm not one to usually promote other things, but it's really cool to see how, like, Royal Key and Koiski, they do tours of the facilities, the college facilities around the world. As a matter of fact, if you look at my Twitter, I think it was about a month ago, I posted that YouTube video of UNLV and them showing off their $40 million football facility. One of the key things in there was the design person for jerseys and all that other stuff has come over from Oregon, the equipment guy. So he's got experience. He knows the vendors. I think that's huge. I think that's great for UNLV. I hope that they can get really flashy. That way they can get more recruits, because you know how the players are these days, the young kids. They want to go somewhere warm and they want to go somewhere flashy. Coach Arroyo's got everything he needs, especially if they go to a bigger conference. But right now he's got the building blocks. I hope he continues to flourish. We're gonna go to break. When we come back, we're gonna dive into the Raiders season so far. What can they do to get better? Why are they struggling? I mean, a lot of drama going on right now, man. And honestly, you know what cures drama? Winning. Hopefully they win this Sunday against the Titans. I have a really good feeling about it because the Titans are struggling as well. But it's one of those things where when you have two teams that are 0-2, who wants that win more, man? Who wants to prevent going 0-3 more? When we come back, we'll get into those details here on the Sin City Sports Show, presented by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
What's happening, sports fans? Are you a fan of Southern California sports? Are you looking for a show hotter than a hot summer day in California? Then look no further than the SoCal Supreme Sports Show, where I talk about all things Southern California sports. That's right, all sports teams from Southern California. From the hard-hitting tackles of the NFL, to the killer crossovers and big three-pointers of the NBA and WNBA, to the grand slams of the MLB, to the bone-chilling goals of the NHL, and to the booming kicks of the MLS. The SoCal Supreme Sports Show has it all for you. Oh, and let us not forget about the college sports as well. So join me, Taryn Rodriguez, every week here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Sports fans, do you like teams that are tough, cities that are tougher, and fan bases that are passionate about their teams? How about teams that are historic and stadiums that are iconic? Then you belong in Chicago, and you need to check out Chi-Town Weekly. Join me, Adam Kernan, every week as we keep up with all things Chicago sports. Bears, Bulls, Blackhawks, Cubs, White Sox. We'll cover them all, plus more. The Windy City is always buzzing, and we'll keep you up on all the big games and major stories. So tune in to Chi-Town Weekly every week right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Everybody, this is Taryn Rodriguez. Are you a fan of volleyball? Are you a fan of Thunder Spikes? Then I have the show for you, Set Point, where I cover NCAA men's and women's volleyball, high school boys and girls volleyball, beach volleyball, and even professional volleyball. Catch the action every week here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
What's good, fight fans? It's your boy, Marcus Los Great, here to give you what you want, here to give you what you need. Yeah, man. Yeah. I'm coming to you live, straight from your mama's basement with a crispy, awesome white tea. We're coming to you live every Tuesday at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Powered by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Hey sports fans, do you like wine? Well, we've got the show for you. This is Let's Wine About Sports, a show where we talk about wine and sports simultaneously. From the classic Cabernet Sauvignon all the way down to the grapes that you've never even heard of before. Oh yeah, we cover it all. And we'll talk about a little bit of sports as well. Football, hockey, collegiate, women's sports, it doesn't matter. We're going to talk about it all, and we're going to whine about it all. So join me Monday at 8 p.m. on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Wrestling fans in the podcast world, you are in the right place. to listen to the right show, the premier show in the professional wrestling podcasting world. This is Ring Rambling Radio, and you're listening to one of the co-hosts. I am Martin Sandoval, a.k.a. the SoCal Saint, along with my two co-hosts, the lovely Felicia and my boy Matt. Yes, every Saturday or every other Saturday morning, you can listen to us, the premier wrestling team, giving you the premier wrestling news, rumors, updates, event discussions, everything that has to do with professional wrestling. You're in the right place. IE Sports Radio presents Ring Rambling Radio. Don't miss it, because it's just too sweet.
Welcome back, folks. Welcome back from the break. It is another edition of the Tuesday evening IE Vegas, the Sin City Sports Show, presented by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. I'm your host, Cale Henderson. You guys can get at us on our forums, our Twitter forums for that matter, at SinCity_IESR. You can get at me on my personal Cale_Henderson, where I am very active. Actually, I'm probably more active on the Sin City Twitter than I am on my personal now, especially with the Raiders season underway. Have a few clips that I wanted to copy paste to my account, but I'm actually just waiting to make sure that it is okay and I don't get any kind of trouble, because I'm not trying to get Larry B in trouble. I appreciate the guy. Before we get too much into the Raiders, I got to talk about the platform that we speak on here. IE Sports Radio. For the last 8 years, IE Sports Radio has been bringing you amazing content ranging from interviewing legendary athletes to building tailor-made shows dedicated to all major sports cities around the country. All the while, we've continued to be by the fans, for the fans, and with your help, we are ready to take the next step. When you go to our website, iesportsradio.com, you'll see our Patreon link with 5 different tiers. The first one starting at just $5 a month. This donation gets you shout-outs on all 32 of our shows. Higher tiers include IE Sports Radio merchandise, access to our podcasting university, and even a chance to be featured in in a segment of our flagship show, hosted by the man, the myth, the legend, Larry B himself. The Defining Moment. Thank you all very much for continuing to make IE Sports Radio your direct feed for all that is sports. And we're back at it again, folks. You guys know how we work. We go big here. We're all about our Vegas sports. We recap the Las Vegas Lady Aces are the WNBA champions. Much deserved. They're kicking ass. They actually have Twitter footage of their parade that Mark Davis and the Aces threw for them. Look like they're having a good time. Well deserved. Very, very much earned. I think this team was a lot of fun to watch this year. Say what you want about the differences between male and female sports. I personally thought that this season was pretty exciting to watch. These ladies, they put up a lot of points, man. They put up a lot of points, a lot of 3 balls, and I think they're just kind of gritty. So it was a lot of fun watching them win. UNLV Football is 2-1. 2-1 to start the year. Had a commanding wins over Idaho State and Texas, basically 58-27, 58-28, and did an excellent job against them. Their only loss right now is to a Power 5 Cal team. They do play the Utah State Aggies this upcoming Saturday, the 24th, at 6 p.m. Central Time. So it looks like it will be in Utah State. No big deal. Central Time. So for us, I mean, we're looking at 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Actually, that's a Utah State kickoff. So we're looking at 5 p.m. Mountain Time. because it's in Utah State. It's in Utah in general. So yeah, we'll be looking at a 5 p.m. That'll be on CBS Sports Network. You guys can check that live. I think that should be a good game now that I look at it. Utah State, I still think is the better team overall. I think they've had obviously tougher opponents. Alabama beat the brakes off of them in week 2, and that's just tough for anybody to come back from, especially when you have all them big boys in Bama beating up on you, all those professional athletes basically beating up on you for 4 quarters. 55-0 by Bama, lost to Weber State 35-7. Again, tough. Get beat up by Bama and then turn around and you have to play Weber State. I don't know, man. There were some injuries involved with that too, so this could be the time to pounce. This could be the time for UNLV to go on a run, and we wish them nothing but the best. Golden Knights hockey. Golden Knights NHL Knights have kicked off the rookie camps. Shouldn't say puck dropped in the rookie camps, and they are underway. The NHL season will be going soon. I do believe the Golden Knights will be a contender as long as they stay healthy. They could have been a contender last year, so we'll have more on them as we go, and I'm sure my guy Adam Karnick, the host of the Neutral Zone, should be able to give you guys more insight on the Golden Knights if he happens to touch on them. I know he's kind of more of a partial. He's partial to more of the Chicago team, those Blackhawks, but I think he does shed some light on the Golden Knights. So we'll definitely try and have him on here for a short segment here in the near future as the puck is going to drop here late October for the regular season for the NHL. So that should be interesting. On to the Raiders, man. Let's see here. Let's do what we do, man. Let's just approach this segment with blunt force trauma, right? It's honest, it's transparent. That's how I've lived my entire life, or at least I know it for the last 5 to 10 years. That's how I've come to live my life, and I believe honesty and transparency is huge. There's something going on in the dynamic there that we don't know. I wish we did. I wish I was closer to the situation. I wish a player would just text me and tweet me their frustrations, and I'd be able to use them as a source, well, at least anonymously, and give you guys insight as to what's going on. I mean, the reality is this is probably the top. If there was 3 really disappointing teams in the NFL right now, 3. If I had a top 3 most disappointing teams in the NFL right now, let's see here. Number 3 would probably be the Dallas Cowboys because they are always loaded with talent and something always snake bites them, man. It doesn't matter what it is. I think it's a Jerry Jones thing, man. I think it's just the Jerry Jones venom. That team will be good when Jerry Jones has moved on from controlling its best interest on the field. If Jerry Jones just focused on the business, it'd be kind of scary how much they'd be worth if Jerry Jones just focused on the business and not on the field, right? It'd be freaky because they're already the most valued franchise in all of sports, not just the NFL, all of sports, at like, we'll say like $9 billion or something like that. It's like a crazy, absurd amount for one business to be worth that much. Sports business that really only works like 19 weeks out of the year. For the Cowboys, it's usually only 16 or 17, of course, because they never make the playoffs. But that's probably my number 3 most disappointing team, and they would normally be my number 1 every single year because they are usually chock full of talent, loaded. They're just getting kind of bit by the injury bug right now, and there's not much you can do about that. Yeah, NFL is a physical sport. Injuries happen. There's not much you can do about that. So, but I do put them at number 3 because they could have been a Super Bowl contender this year. They just made some mistakes. So the number 3 of the top 3 most disappointing teams. Number 2, the Bengals. Like, what the hell is happening in Cincinnati, guys? Right? I mean, the defense hasn't changed much. You have a pass rush. I mean, I think the corners are kind of suspect. Your safeties are pretty damn good. You just re-signed your starting safety Bates to a big deal. Joe Burrow is a stud. Yes, he's had a rough start to the year, but he's a stud. You have 3 of the best. You have probably the best wide receiver trio in all the league, and Hayden Hurst is your tight end. Joe Mixon's your running back. You revamped your offensive line. Maybe that's the case. Maybe that's why the Bengals are struggling. All I know is they were a Super Bowl appearance team. They were the Super Bowl representative of the AFC, and they had one of the worst offensive lines in the league. I think they were ranked like 24th last year, offensive line wise. Got Joe Burrow just tattooed for a full season. They go out and they upgrade their offensive line entirely, adding a new guard and a new right tackle, the best right tackle in the market for that matter, La'el Collins. And yeah, they're 0-2. They're struggling. They're in a bad spot. I can't tell you why. I don't know what it is that's going on with Cincinnati. Maybe it's because they might have a first place schedule now. I'm not sure. All I know is they're not sneaking up on anybody anymore, and it's not going to be easy to win games, especially when you have a bullseye on your back, right? You were the team, the representative of the AFC last year. People want to beat you up. I don't know what it is that they got to do. Maybe Zach Taylor has to oversimplify it a bit more, get behind that offensive line, run the ball a little bit more. There you go. Taron Rodriguez and Larry B. There you go. Run the damn ball. There you go. I said it. Give it to Joe Mixon. Let him kind of set up play action for those stud receivers, right? The number one team by far, and I hate to say this because I'm the Vegas representative here on IE Sports Radio. The Raiders are the most disappointing team in the NFL right now. I mean, seriously, they're a team that should be 2-0. I know that the Chargers are a really good football team. But the Raiders had 4 turnovers in that game and still only lost by 5 points and had an opportunity to score. Had an opportunity to drive down the field and score like they've done so many times in Derek Carr's career since 2014. They gave up the ball 4 times in that Week 1 game and still had an opportunity to come back and win the game. Down 1 score. 24-19 was the final score. Yes, it was a bad game for Derek Carr. He deserves the blame. He was overly aggressive. What nobody really wanted to talk about is how bad that offensive line was. I mean, honestly, man, it's bad. It was giving up pressure. Yes, there was a pocket. Very small pocket compared to last year. Okay? Nobody wanted to talk about that. I've been talking about it for weeks since before the season. I thought that this was a position that really needed attention. Darryl Worley was available out there. J.C. Treader was available out there. J.C. Treader, from my understanding, has retired. Fine. If you can lure J.C. Treader out of retirement, he was still a top 10 center last year, right? Like this week started out so well. I mean, it was the most pristine half of football I've ever seen Raiders team play. 20-0. Very few mistakes. The offensive line allowed a sack. In short yardage situation, they just don't get pushed. Like, period. They're outmatched by the defensive line for some reason. But for the most part of the game, and these are the clips I was going to talk to you guys about. I copied and pasted or copied and saved images from the film NFL Plus. NFL Plus, by the way, don't buy it yet. Okay, if you've bought it, get your money back. Because right now I'm really frustrated. Okay. I still don't have all 22 for this week's game. Maybe it launched between, noon when I watched the condensed game of the Raiders and the Cardinals for the second time this week. Maybe they did that. But the all 22 of week 1 is the Chiefs and the Cardinals, which pisses me off, man. Like, I want to watch all 22 of the Chargers game. Get a more in-depth look of what's going on. That's why I paid like whatever the amount was for that NFL Plus premium. I want the coaches tape. I want the all 22. They are crapping the bed right now with that. So I've had to rely on the condensed game. You guys are going to have to forgive me. I've really wanted to come out with something, but for some reason NFL Plus is glitching like hell. And I got to figure out a better, more efficient way to show you guys these clips and stuff without getting the radio show in trouble, because there's got to be some copyright stuff involved. I know I paid for NFL Plus a subscription, but I don't know what the rules are with that. So we'll figure that out. I'll kind of get together with Larry B this week and see what we can do. The man's busy, but he's not as busy anymore. So I will get together with him and see what kind of ideas he has on that. Regardless, I didn't have all 22 when I was doing all of my notes earlier today. I watched the full game yesterday, the condensed game this morning, and this is what I can tell you. It was definitely a tale of two halves, right? I thought the Raiders' game plan for the beginning of Sunday's game against Arizona was pristine to start, right? Arizona was not blitzing. They were dropping 7-8 guys in coverage, and Derek Carr was absolutely picking them apart. By the end of the first half, he was like 16 of 21 for 210 and 2 touchdowns. Absolutely carving up Arizona. If you don't pressure Derek Carr and keep 2 guys deep, you're screwed. He's one of the best quarterbacks against pressure in the NFL. And I say that. And a lot of people don't agree with that. That's fine. They're wrong. There's metrics all over the place. Look at PFF. They may be full of crap most of the time, but they have harsh numbers for a reason. Derek Carr is one of the best against pressure in the league, especially against a single high safety. If you pressure Derek Carr with a single high safety, In most cases, that man's going to complete the ball, find the open guy. You're going to have great situations, big gains, first downs picked up. Arizona was sending the farm in the second half. I don't know what happened from the first half, man, to the second half. Actually, I take that back. I do know what happened. This loss, and I said it on Twitter, this loss is 100%, in my opinion, on Josh McDaniels. The guy I've been touting for months. The guy I've been excited about for months to take over the Raiders. I've approached it with an open mind. I don't know what to do. I really don't know what to do for you guys to kind of give you some at ease or some understanding of what's happening, but I can try and oversimplify it a little bit more. Let's see where we're at here. Look at my mini tweets as of this morning on the IE Sports, or I should say IESR underscore. Let's see here. So here's one. I think Derek Carr needs to step up and be a leader. I really do. I think the man's a great leader. We know what he does off the field. He says all the right things. I think he needs to step up, take grass, maybe even pull Josh McDaniels aside and say, hey, dude, you're calling plays like a bitch. Like, it's absolutely frustrating. Like, how do you push the ball downfield to Hillis, to Hollins, and try and get Devontae Adams and Darren Waller maybe 5 targets apiece in a game that was easily like in your grasp, man? How do you just target Mac Hollins and go to a conservative run game in the second half? Your play calling, which was top 10 in the NFL for basically 2 decades, has been nowhere near where it should be for a team full of weapons, man. You have Devontae Adams, Darren Waller, Hunter Renfrow. I know he fumbled, but listen, he's fumbled in the past. He's had lucky bounces. Either way, for the most part, he's a very, very efficient receiver. On top of that, Mac Hollins, who's coming out like he's just a big target who gets open in the middle of the field. I think the Raiders need to take advantage of that more. You have a top 4 that's fantastic. I've barely seen Tyron Johnson, the speed guy. You have Josh Jacobs, who's running like a madman. We're just, for whatever reason, the Raiders aren't giving him the ball. Okay? Again, I looked at that film, dude. I legit paused it and used the snip tool. I grabbed clips of holes that were massive in the first half. And then you look at the second half, and it's just like the Raiders' offensive line made no adjustments. It's almost like Carmen Brasillo is not teaching them how to deal with blitz pickups, how to shed those double teams, and straight up just go to the guy that's trying to shoot the gap that you're stepping towards, right? I get that's more zone. This is probably more of a power gap team, but regardless, you have to man your gap. Basic rules in gap is on down backer, right? I understand things change, from base to when the play is going, but you have to have your eyes up. I don't think this offensive line, granted it's had some injuries, we're in a bad position when the offensive line is playing like an offensive line where you miss Andre James. I said it. I haven't been a fan of him on the show. You guys know this. I've been very critical of him. I've said, hey, if the Raiders can upgrade, do it. Have they been able to? No. But Andre James is the center that nobody really wants. He has issues with one-on-one blocking. He was really good in pass blocking in week 1, technically, before the concussion happened. Run blocking, he is garbage. I think this offensive line is big. It's athletic, but I don't think they're strong. I don't think they're very strong. I think Lester Cotton's strong. I think Lester Cotton's a tank, but to me he looks like a liability in the pass game. John Simpson doesn't know what he's doing, man. I think Colton Miller is suffering. His play has not been as good as it normally is. He had a really bad week 1. I think he scored in the 50s according to PFF. Colton Miller is a top 5 left tackle. I don't know what Carmen Brasillo is doing. Tom Cable was a bad coach, but things never really ever looked this bad. Okay? It just looks like this offensive line is lost, and I feel bad for these guys because I'm sure they worked their butts off. It's just young. It's obvious it's inexperienced. It needs time to gel in this new system. There's a lot of hiccups going on, and that's just kind of the summary of it all, man. We're going through some growing pains. What I don't like is that Josh McDaniels is not willing to come out and say it's my fault. It's my fault. I called a bad game in the second half. Because the defense is not the problem. The defense is giving the ball back to the Raiders offense. The defense got the job done. The Raiders had 3 extra possessions than the Cardinals did. 3 extra possessions. Raiders had a 20-0 lead at the end of the first half. Like a perfect half, man. Couldn't have gone better. Right? Then you go out to the second half, you're a top 5, you look like a top 5 offense, and you only put up 3 points. That's on the play caller, man. So this is what I hope Josh McDaniels is doing this week. I hope he's sitting down with Dave Ziegler. I hope they're looking at the needs on this team, the massive holes in this team, and they're saying we got to see if there's guys more qualified in the market to step in. You have cap space. Do not spare it. If you're not spending the money that you have in place, you're not doing this team a quality service, because it is a team that is built to compete. There's so many weapons, man. So many weapons. And for whatever reason, Josh McDaniels is having a very hard time game planning this. Very hard time. I can't tell you why. And it's gotten so bad, and Raiders Twitter is so toxic that they're asking Carr or McDaniels, which one's going to go? I'll be honest with you guys, if the Raiders don't make the playoffs, I don't see Derek Carr back. And I don't think that's really fair to him, because I get it. He's thrown for 5 touchdowns and 3 picks, but the Raiders aren't in the game. They're not up or in the game if he's not the quarterback. And barring a trade that makes sense, I just don't see anybody coming in that's better. That's kind of the situation the Raiders have been in for the last few years. He's a good quarterback, man. Something's going on. I think the run game has been trash. Honestly, I take that back. I think it's been effective. I think the problem is Josh McDaniels, for whatever reason, is just not sticking to the run. He's not setting up the pass very well. In the first half, the Raiders were just running train. just on the tracks, and Cardinals were on the tracks, and the Raiders were coming through, man. Seriously. Absolutely. Josh Jacobs was making amazing cuts. There were big holes being opened by the offensive line, but that was at the time where they weren't doing the run blitzing. Cardinals weren't run blitzing. It was 4-on-5, man. The Raiders had the numbers. 4-on-5 at a minimum. The Raiders had the numbers. Taron Rodriguez chimes in saying, I was disappointed in the Chargers losing to the Chiefs. You were right about the Chiefs, but the Chargers pulled a Pete Carroll in Super Bowl 49. I hope McDaniels isn't a bust like he was in Denver. I think Rich Bisaccia should have been head coach. I don't think Rich Bisaccia should have been head coach, Taron, because I just don't think he was ready for the moment. I saw more games when he was the interim of the Raiders being out-coached. Like, for example, that Giants game, the Washington Commanders game, both very winnable games. The Chicago Bears game, all of those Rich Bisaccia was involved in, because that's when the rumors and the John Gruden stuff happened. All 3 of those teams were absolute dog crap, and the Raiders got out-coached by every one of those staffs. Coincidentally, only one of those teams has their staff from last year. So that tells you how bad the Raiders played against those guys. I just didn't think Rich Bisaccia, I think it was above his head. I get that they loved him, man, but it was above his head, and they needed to make some changes. I'm not against the Josh McDaniels hire. I wasn't like a fan of it right away. I've warmed up to it, but something's got to happen, man, where he's got to look in the mirror and say, dude, maybe I really just need to really focus my time on the offense like I did in New England, and allow the coaches I brought in to coach. Because Patrick Graham and that defense are doing a very good job. Where Patrick Graham can improve is finding a way to get Chandler Jones free, because he's done absolutely nothing so far. I know he set the edge really well. It's very hard to run to his side, but the pass rush aspect of it all, I just really haven't seen him around a quarterback the first 2 weeks, and that's rough. I know they've been mobile guys, so it's not as easy for an older guy, but his age is starting to show, man. Like, the Raiders are paying him $17 million a year, and he hasn't really done anything yet. With that said, Max Crosby hasn't been perfect either. Is he an excellent player? Absolutely. Max Crosby is a beast, but he's not an excellent. He that sack that he missed on Kyler Murray, like, legit was hugging the man and just fell off of him. He makes that sack and the game's over. The Cardinals don't score. But it's the little things, man. That's something I preach to my youth team all the time. It's the little things. You have to execute. Top 5 reasons why the Raiders lost this past week. 5, run the ball better. They have to run the ball better, dude. I've said this since week 1 of taking over the show. If the Raiders want to be a contender, they have to run the ball efficiently. If they don't run the ball efficiently, this offense just isn't as effective. It really isn't. This is a team that could be the most effective offense in the NFL, most efficient offense in the NFL, put up 30 points a game with ease, and they're moving away from what made Josh McDaniels a top 10 offensive coordinator for 20 years. Run the ball, dude. I know I said it last week and you guys kind of made fun of me, but it's facts, dude. Run the ball. Set up play action. You have one of the best play action quarterbacks in the league. Run the damn ball, dude. Give Josh Jacobs and that third round pick that you legitimately, the Raiders could have easily spent that third round pick that they wasted on Zamir White. I'm not saying they wasted. I shouldn't say that. It almost feels like they wasted it because the guys run the ball like twice. They spent a third round pick on a guy they could have easily grabbed another offensive lineman to help with how bad this offensive line is, which is their biggest need right now. Offensive line and interior defensive line. It needs to be spiced up, man. They have to bring in improvements. Give Ndamukong Suh $8 million a year. I don't care. As long as it gets the ball back more, who cares? Number 4, I said the O-line and D-line aren't good enough. The team has injuries and cap space. Address these needs. I personally believe that McDaniels and Ziegler cannot be stubborn with this. If the offensive line and the defensive line are not good enough, man. The interior is bad. Colt Miller's not playing up to his snuff. They need to look within, man. Figure out what's going on with Carmen Brasillo. Why aren't these guys coached up a little more? Why are we having issues? Why are we having issues in the pass game? What can we do to clean this up? And then here's the other thing. Josh McDaniels, if he knows that there's an overloaded blitz coming, has to give Derek Carr the ability to audible routes. Like if Darren Waller on that last really, really high pressure play that they did, not the last drive, but the drive before the second half ended, before Kyler Murray marched down and scored that gut-wrenching touchdown. If Derek Carr had an audible telling Darren Waller to maybe run a drag route or a 5-yard in or maybe even a slant, that's ball game, dude. There's nobody there. They overloaded that blitz on the weak side, the left side of the field. Like Colt Miller and those guys took the most dangerous guys, the most dangerous men, and there were still 3 rushers that were unaccounted for. Derek Carr had to escape the pocket by running right. If they had a built-in audible there, Darren Waller's running a drag route or a slant route. Derek Carr maybe gets tattooed, but I promise you, Darren is still running right now. Seriously. They at least get a first down, and it is what it is. It's all she wrote. Some adjustments need to be made. There's growing pains going on. It's the first 2 weeks of this offense, but they really need to start recommitting to the run, man. Committed to the run. Feed Josh Jacobs. Feed Zamir White. That's what you got them there for, man. Feed them. Allow them to set up the pass. Because at the very least, if you average 3.5 to 4 yards a carry, the defense has to bring up those safeties, and it's going to make it a lot easier for guys to get open. These elite guys that you have on your payroll. Don't be foolish. Game plan your guys open. Okay? Game plan Devontae Adams open. Game plan Renfrow open. Game plan Waller open. I don't think they're really doing it. Again, Darren Waller just got paid. Derek Carr had a shot in the back of the end zone while in the red zone in the second half. I actually want to say it was in the third quarter. Hit Darren Waller in the hands. Yes, it was a good defensive play by the Cardinals, but when you're paid $15+ million a year and you just got your extension and you're as elite as you are, Darren Waller's got to come down with that catch. Hit him right in the hands of the back of the end zone, dude. That's, again, another one of those that could have been the nail in the coffin. Could have really helped the Raiders. It's not just Derek Carr, people. Okay? People want to blame Derek Carr. He's not amazing right now. I think as the season goes on, he's going to start throwing dimes all year long. I do believe that the no preseason thing kills quarterbacks' momentum. I truly do. That day he looked more sharp. But I believe that there's something going on. I think the in routes are way too goddamn deep. Why are they running 15 to 20 yard in routes? Seriously. Especially when the linebackers are blitzing as much as they did in the second half. I just believe that things are just too overcomplicated right now. Because from what I'm hearing, Josh McDaniels runs a complicated offense. More complicated than Grooves. Right? Which is crazy. Simplify it, man. Get your guys open. Use the run to set up the pass. That way things get much easier as you get into the grittier games, okay? The next 3 games the next 2 games are winnable. Okay? It's Tennessee and Denver. Tennessee and Denver are winnable games. You go 2-2. Then you go into Arrowhead against a team that I've been saying all off season, and Darren, Taryn, you're 100% correct. I've been saying all off season, the Chiefs are for real, dude. They have a big ass offensive line. They're not going to miss a beat. They're running the ball better, which is scary. Yes, the Herbert injury happened. I think Herbert throwing that pick six really hurt the Chargers in a point where they just couldn't have that. But Mahomes is being Mahomes, man, and he actually looks more efficient right now than what he did with Tyreek Hill there. Did I feel like there was going to be a hiccup? Yes, but the offense is still doing what it's doing. Their weakness is their corners, right? I think their interior defensive line is one of the better ones in the NFL. It's going to be hard to run against, but the Raiders still have to commit themselves to the run if they want to do what they got to do, right? Make sense? It's that simple, guys. Run the ball, set up the pass, okay? Keep your defense off the field, keep them fresh, because they were on the field for more than half the game Sunday, and I can't blame them for losing their legs because the offense did absolutely nothing in the second half. And Josh McDaniels is to blame. He's the number one reason to blame for the loss last week. Going from the first half to the second half, there were no adjustments made other than they went more conservative in the play calling, and I think it cost the Raiders the game. Actually, I know it did. So what do they need to do? Address the needs. Get some offensive and defensive linemen in here, man. Like, go out and sign Darrell Williams. Sign somebody to step in and start, because the guys you have in the interior right now are not doing the job. You need to do a better job of using your tight ends to chip, okay? Chip those defensive ends, help out your offensive tackles, get them in space. Delay arrows, whip routes, right? In routes, seam routes. Do something, man, but help out your quarterback, because the guy, I think he's holding onto the ball because people are either dropping 8 in coverage or they're sending 7. And the dude just has no time. He really doesn't. This has been a rocky year. He's already been sacked 6 to 8 times this year in 2 games. That's crazy, man. You can't have that. Address your offensive and defensive line needs. First and foremost. Don't waste your time, man. Don't waste time. You have plenty of time. There's like 15 more weeks in the season, right? This team could still very well go 10-5, 11-4. You guys may think I'm crazy, but it's talented, man. It really is. But they need to address their fronts. Go out, find Darrell Williams. If you can, spend money on Ndamukong Suh. Get some interior pressure. You need it on the defensive line. Get some interior vet to come in and at least keep Derek Carr off his back, help widen the pocket a little more, okay? Did they get a little bit better last week? Yes, but that second half run by the Cardinals was just absolutely gut-wrenching. It was heartbreaking. It can't happen again. Might be one of the worst losses I've ever seen in Raiders history, and they've had 20 years of just stank-ass stuff, right? Titans are a winnable game. Do not let Derrick Henry run the ball, period. I don't think they're really a threat in the passing game. You need to load the box, prevent Derrick Henry from running the ball, make sure that you take care of business on the back end. Hopefully Trayvon Moehrig is back. If not, I think Deron Harmon did a good job. But defensively, the Raiders just need to keep Derrick Henry under 100 yards, and I think this is a game that the Raiders could very well win. The Raiders have to commit to the run, though. They have to commit to the run, set up the run, use the run to set up play action. Let Derek Carr throw the ball. I think the guy throws for more than 3 touchdowns. Wouldn't surprise me if the Raiders get a victory going in to play Denver the following week. But they can't look ahead. They have to take it's cliche, but they have to take a week at a time, man. Seriously. Don't waste time. Address your needs. Look at yourself in the mirror. Run the damn ball. Help your quarterback out. Scheme your dudes open. Because you got some dudes on this team. Don't let them go to the waste. Don't waste this year. Because you never know if they're going to be this fresh the next 2 years. Even though it's a 3-year plan and it's obvious based on the contracts. You guys know what it is. We're here every Tuesday evening, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. This is the Sin City Sports Show presented by IE Sports Radio. Your direct feed for all that is sports. I'm your host, Cale Henderson. As always, get in touch with me, man. Reach out. Love, peace, and hair grease.